Hello.
What's up, Mark?
Yes.
What is up?
What is up? I got Zach and Tom on the line for you.
What's up, Mark?
Mark.
Hi, guys. What's up, guys? I hope this sounds good. It's the best I can do.
Mark, it does sound good, actually. I was worried myself, but I'm impressed with our sound quality, to be honest. So
you can thank National Rental Car for this fine vehicle they've outfitted me with.
Well, thank you for doing this. I told the guys this morning, I said, there's no way Mark's going to do this. And sure enough, you proved me wrong. So,
well, I think that's what you've been saying since you started doing podcasts, which is probably why I've never been invited.
Jerk. All right. So be careful driving.
You can run that part too.
All right.
Yes.
And then
it's actually that's gonna open every podcast we have from now on.
Yeah.
Go ahead, fellas.
Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Back-to-Back podcast on the Count the Things Network. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for sharing everything and supporting our sponsors and subscribing to the Patreon, patreon.com/countthethings. I'm Zach Harper. I am a little under the weather today. I've been coughing a lot. So normally on a Wednesday, I would lead the charge and play host, but my good friend, Tom Haverstraw, is going to take over. I'm going to tag him in, and I'll still be a part of the podcast. But Tom Haverstraw with Jade Hoy, and we have the phenomenal Marc Stein of the New York Times and my favorite email letter on the planet. So Tom, take it away.
Wait, better than the Count the Dings newsletter?
Oh, I forgot we had one. Second favorite newsletter.
No, it's better. Trust me, it's better than ours.
Mark, how are you, my man? I miss you.
Boys, I'm good. I'm honored. I don't know. This is about, what is this, like the 7th iteration of your guys' podcast?
It's actually the 8th. It's the 8th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Episode 5,000, something like that. I finally made it.
Oh, come on.
I finally got the call from Jade Hoy.
Hold on a second.
Years of bitterness. I'm still not over. Probably will never get over.
Oh, God.
Never got invited to a Warriors Wednesday. I can't even look at Strauss.
Oh, man.
But I made it. I finally made it.
See, Mark, we thought this whole time you were ducking us. It turns out Jade was ducking you. We've been linking up with the wrong guy.
I mean, McMahon, Bontemps. I mean, who hasn't been on this show?
We can't keep McMahon off this thing.
Yeah. He's banned. He's banned from everywhere else except for us, apparently.
I'm looking for these. I'm looking for receipts here. I remember early in the year I asked you, and you gave me the subtle decline. I'm looking for receipts.
The subtle decline.
If you find my name in the archives anywhere on any Jade Hoy produced show in the history of podcasting,
really,
you will have found a true miracle.
Wow.
Mark, I'm not wearing any socks right now.
That's a weird thing to tell.
That's acceptable in 2018.
Yeah, it's just when I'm in the finals, I wear like shoes with very low cut socks. And every time Mark sees me, he's like, Haverstraw, can you please wear some socks? It's so weird.
Oh, so I've evolved on that front. It's 2018. I got to change my ways. Like, I'm a lot older than you guys. It takes me a while to come around.
Well, speaking of coming around, Don Nelson just came out with a Q&A with your employer, New York Times, a Q&A with Alex Williams. The headline is Don Nelson talks hoops, poker, and weed. This was one of the most all over the place interviews, and it seems like he's kind of like a Forrest Gump, just touching a lot of different worlds all at the same time. And you chimed in on Twitter that Nellie Unplugged never covered anyone else like him and surely never will again. Don Nelson, for someone who grew up in Connecticut, I didn't really get much of the Don Nelson in my life, even though he was a 5-time champion with the Boston Celtics. For those who didn't grow up in the Bay Area or Milwaukee or Dallas, what is so mystical about Don Nelson?
Don Nelson is beat writer gold. When you are covering one of his teams, I mean, there is never – this is my 25th season covering this league. I've never come across a coach who's more of an open book than Nellie. He always says way too much. Going to get himself in trouble. Can't hold back. So if you're a writer, I mean, it doesn't get any better. He has almost no filter, as you read today, and you can only imagine how jealous I was that the New York Times is writing about Don Nelson, and I didn't get that assignment. Man,
well, we have Marc Stein on the pod, not Alex Williams. That's what we think. We think you're the one to talk to.
You're making me feel better. You are. So I'm sure Alex has hours worth of material that he couldn't put in the story that he'll be regaling his friends with for years to come. Because the man, like I said, I mean, I often say that I won the journalism lottery about 5 times over the course of my 25 years with various things that happened to me. But getting to cover Don Nelson in Dallas was so good because, again, he just can't help himself. He's going to tell you just about everything.
When you covered Don, did you think that this was the final chapter, that he'd be on an island in Hawaii growing pot and playing poker with Willie Nelson and Woody Harrelson? Is this what your image was?
Not the pot part, because, you know, I mean, I would venture to say that you're probably 1,000 times more educated than me on the medicinal benefits of it. And just the whole, you know, we've seen so many NBA players, former players, come out and talk about how helpful it can be. And I'm really, nowhere near close to qualified to being addressed all that. But Nellie was in Hawaii all those years he was in the Mavs. Nellie used to tell beat writers like me, hey, do you want to come house sit my place in Maui? I need 2 weeks off. You can have the place and do whatever you want. Nellie, I work for a newspaper that covers your team. I can't really stay in your house. It's not really part of the journalistic code.
Oh, come on. I mean,
that's a tough thing to turn down, though.
Yeah, if Spo is like, hey, I got a place in the Philippines or Hawaii or Portland, I'm taking that offer. I'm sorry, Mark. I don't have a soul.
Something tells me that there have been writers who've taken him up on that offer.
So, So when you read that story, the Q&A, which you can find on the New York Times, what was the thing where you just laughed the loudest? Like, yes, that is the most Don Nelson thing of all time in this story. Like, what jumped off being like, I'm so glad he said that. Or
when he said he was better, who did he say he was better than? Riley.
Pat Riley.
When he said he was a much better player than Riley, that was the part I liked, because that's the kind, I could just hear him making that kind of snide comment. But, in my days covering the team, shuffleboard was a passion of his, which he talks about in the piece. He's always, wanting to play games for money. I mean, and, I think, athletes, that's just a thing that spans all generations. But I'm telling you, man, covering him was, like, I still won't forget. I mean, what he did to Dirk Nowitzki was a horrible disservice to Dirk, and so great for me. Dirk had barely been in Dallas 5 minutes, and Nellie pulls me aside and says, Dirk's going to win Rookie of the Year. Great little headline in the morning news, but put a bullseye on Dirk that was just bad. And something he really didn't need, on top of all the other transitional challenges he was facing coming over from Germany. Not exactly the top league in Spain or Greece or anything like that. But that was Nellie. He couldn't help himself.
Well, Mark, that's kind of the interesting thing to me, because he kind of, I don't know if takes a shot is the right word, but he had another uber talented rookie power forward earlier in his career with Chris Webber, and he mentions, like, there's no secret that he and Weber didn't get along in that one or not even one season, right? I mean, it didn't really last all that long together. But
traded him early in year 2.
Yeah, early in year 2, like he said, he wasn't ready to play winning basketball or do anything winning at that point. He says that in the Q&A. Do you think that, or how much do you think that experience with Weber colored the way that he treated Dirk in terms of just the coaching, the approach, any of that?
Well, what it really did was Nellie as a coach to that point was an absolute darling. In Milwaukee, he had great teams, probably the best teams he ever had. But you had to get through either the Celtics or the Sixers, and the Bucks could never pull off both. It was one season, I want to say 82, 83. I'm doing this off memory, and obviously I'm driving, so I can't look it up. I'm pretty sure the Bucks swept the Celtics 4-0 and then lost to the Sixers in the conference finals. You'd normally be feeling pretty good about yourselves to beat the Larry Bird Celtics 4-0 in the playoffs and then still not be able to get to the NBA Finals. But then he went to Golden State, and he really was kind of ahead of his time, really popular with the media, run TMC, underdog team, exploiting crazy matchups at every turn, really punching above their weight. But then the whole Weber situation came, and Nellie was seen as the villain in that one because obviously Weber was an insanely talented player,
right? And
Golden State gave up a lot to get him. It didn't work out. And then Nellie went to the Knicks and was with the Knicks an incredibly short time, didn't even last a season because he tried to change Patrick Ewing. You can imagine how that went. Nellie's bounced out before he even makes it to the end of year 1. So his stock as a coach, as a basketball genius, took a pretty serious downturn. And Dallas and Dirk, that was kind of his renaissance. He came to Dallas. He was able to bring his son Donnie over from Phoenix. He anointed Donnie as the coach in waiting. This was all before Dirk and Nash showed up. And the Mavs were struggling big time. And because of the way Golden State ended, because of what happened in New York, Nellie's Q rating was not high at all. And then finally Donnie discovers Dirk. They draft him. They get Nash in the same draft. And let's also not forget that first year was awful for both of them. They really struggled. Nobody in Dallas was saying, oh, wow, we got 2 future Hall of Famers here. So it was a long road back that took a good 5-6 years. But once Nash and Dirk kind of figured it out with Michael Finley, it just took off from there and kind of gave Nellie his renaissance, his rebirth as a coaching genius.
He didn't luck into Dirk Nowitzki. They found Dirk Nowitzki, right?
They found him, and actually they were pretty unlucky because Dirk went to the Hoop Summit game at the end of March of '98, and was the best player on the court and was no longer a secret. But Dirk kind of dodged workouts after that, and there's no way that would have happened in the modern times. Like from the minute Dirk had that insane Hoop Summit game, the coverage and scrutiny of him would have been nonstop. And, it would have been as good as that 98 draft was. And there's some big names in that draft. I can't believe Dirk slips out of the top 3 if that happens now. But in those days, even after the Hoop Summit, it's still kind of the early days of the internet. Dirk's playing in the German league, which is nowhere near a top flight league in Europe. So teams really didn't have a lot on him. And the Celtics were the only other team that got a workout with Dirk before the draft. So the Mavs were ahead of the curve, and they did a lot of work, a lot of behind the scenes, probably some stuff they shouldn't have done to get that done. But they look, Nellie was ahead of his time. I mean, I would think the way the game is played now would suit him a lot better, would suit his teams a lot better. He always wanted forwards handling the ball and big men facing up and doing the kinds of things that are virtually universal now in the NBA.
What was it about Nellie that made him think that way? Is it just like basketball virtuoso of sorts, like he's just a genius, or is it just like he's kind of a quirky guy and likes to just try new things and see what sticks?
Yeah, is he like a rebel at heart?
Well, look, he's definitely a rebel at heart, but also, look, Nellie's detractors would tell you he never liked being the favorite, and he went the unconventional route because he didn't want to have the pressure of being the overwhelming favorite with, a Kobe or a Shaq, that kind of player. I don't really buy that. I mean, he Nellie was raised as a Celtic. He won the 5 rings as a player. He grew up he basically was raised in the NBA in a win or bust environment. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a part of him that he always strayed to the unconventional and wanted to do it his way. And it would be interesting. It would actually be fascinating now to see, because what he loves is now conventional. Would he try to do something else, or would he be, along the same lines of the Warriors or the D'Antoni or whatever, or would he try to come up with something else that we don't see? But look, throughout for long stretches of Nellie's coaching career, even his detractors would say things like, if you had to win one game and just had to hand a coach a group of players and say, find a way for this group to win on a 1-game basis, Don Nelson was your guy.
What is Don Nelson like off the court? Is he an obsessive over basketball in the same way that Pat Riley is, or is he just like, No.
He's exactly how he was described in the piece today. He wants to play poker. He wants to play shuffleboard. He wants to have fun. He wants to, he says he's not drinking anymore, so I'll take him at his word on that one. But,
Yeah.
Nellie used to get, whenever he got ejected, being the fashionista that you are, Tom, you know that you're not really supposed to use the pockets in your suit jacket. But don't tell Don Nelson that. When he was ejected, he would always have a can of beer stuffed into each suit pocket. That was Nellie.
Was he a Coors Light guy or was he a Bud Light guy?
Oh man, I'm not a beer drinker myself, so I didn't study. I should. It's actually embarrassing. I should know that. I don't know that.
Was it a blue can?
I know you want to know exact. Mr. Fiji Water wants to know the exact brand of drink that everyone is ingesting, but I don't remember that.
The LeBron in Game 7, it seemed like he might have he could use some electrolytes. I don't know. Man, I was there for
tell him. Tell him.
Hey, LeBron. Yeah, Bron, why don't you drink some water every once in a while? Get them electrolytes. I'm sure he'll listen to me. Give us the backdrop for the We Believe Warriors and that series.
Nellie was just uniquely suited to face the Mavs in that first round because if anybody knew Dirk Nowitzki's warts, it was him. And at that point of Dirk's career, if you go back and you watch the tape of the 06 finals and even 07, which was his MVP season, and he was fantastic in the season after the 06 finals collapsed. But at that point in Dirk's evolution, smaller guys who could get up under him were a problem. He didn't know how to punish those guys like he did in later years. Your guy Spo is actually the one who really describes it best. But by the time the Mavs won at 11, Dirk was a surgeon and could really just slice up bigger guys, smaller guys, whatever coverages you threw at him. By that point, he had figured it out. But in 07, the Warriors had all kinds of defenders, those just 6'8" rugged guys to throw at Dirk. He hated playing those kind of guys. Steven Jackson, Al Harrington. I mean, they had a great collection of guys to throw at him, even more than Miami did in 06. And it just really made Dirk struggle in that series. But the way people in Dallas look at it, my memory's right again. I mean, I'm getting old. It really sucks when your memory starts. I can't remember the simplest thing. Today, I was in another interview and somebody asked me, who did you pick in the finals? And I couldn't even remember. I couldn't even fully remember my picks. I think I said Warriors over Cavs. I'm not even sure.
Well, the good thing is
my memory's right.
You can hedge. I mean, that way, if you don't have the right answer, you can just always hedge.
Oh, yeah. I throw
every time.
Throw out all kinds of possibilities. You're bound to be right on something.
Right.
I don't like hedging because, I mean, look how long it took me to get on this damn podcast. If I start hedging, the ding master's not going to invite me back.
Of course I will.
Of course he will, yes.
Dampier, didn't Avery take Dampier out of the starting lineup in game 1 of that series? Like, Nellie was already in his head before the series even started. But, you know, the Mavs went away from their typical starting lineup, tried to go small, and from that moment on, the Warriors knew they were in the Mavs' hands.
I'll never forget it. The 2011 NBA Finals. First of all, Mark, you took us out to a steak dinner that was fantastic. But secondly, the Heat had a 3-point shooting competition with LeBron, Mario Chalmers, James Jones, Mike Miller, three other amazing shooters, and Eric Dampier. And they were out on the court, and the media was watching at practice. And it was like 5 shots at every spot on the 3-point line. So it was 25 shots. You know who won the whole competition? Eric Dampier.
Ooh.
Eric Dampier.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I remember it because, as you remember, as Jade remembers, as he called me 10-Take Tommy, that was my first NBA Finals.
Tom was studying everything. Everything. What color towels the guys had.
But if you go
water
watch,
they were drinking.
If you go watch film from 2006 and you watch Dirk against Haslam, you can see he's kind of rushing. Like he's not as comfortable. And then if you watch film of 11, when Dirk gets the ball at the elbow against Bosch and just calmly drives past him for that clinching lefty layup that, you know, that you know, is one of the iconic moments of Dirk's career. You can just see. I mean, he's a different guy. He knows exactly what he wants to do against any defense you throw at him. And he in 2006 and 2007, he wasn't quite there yet.
Well, Mark, in 2007, wasn't Steven Jackson? He was maybe taking things too far, if that's possible, with his trash talk against Dirk, right? Like there were like maybe some borderline threats going on.
I actually don't remember. I mean, it wouldn't. Nothing
would that surprise?
Would surprise me, but I don't. I actually don't remember that. But Jack is, man.
I've heard some things that he was saying some pretty incredible things to Dirk on the court, and then I believe there's a scene maybe after game 1 in the series, whatever game it was, a game in Dallas, and I guess there's a sports bar, right, that has looking glass into the tunnel where the players come out or the opposing team comes out. And I want to say I heard a story where Steven Jackson walking back, I think after the victory, and fans are booing him and everything, and he's basically, you know, maybe throwing up gang signs at the crowd as he's walking through, like just really the highest levels of talking shit in that series. Like Steven Jackson was there.
Man, you got some deep sources, because I'm gonna have to check on. I'm gonna have to check on these tales. You're scooping me here, man.
Well, it's actually Zach's
11 years later, right? Yeah, exactly. That's just what I do.
You know, there's still, if you go to a Warriors game, you know, there's still that hole up high on the wall from where Dirk threw a chair at Oracle and put a hole in the wall in frustration from that We Believe series. And when the Warriors move to their new arena, they're going to somehow try to transfer. They're going to try to cut out that piece of wall to bring it with them. They're so proud. As proud as they are in the last 3 years, they are insanely proud of that We Believe team.
Guys, we talked about going to games. We've talked about going to the theater. We've talked about going to comedy shows or concerts.
Did you say theater?
The theater.
Love the
You
theater.
ever seen
Theatre?
Hamilton at the theater? What a time. I mean, I've never seen Hamilton, but I've heard it's great.
What a
Tickets are expensive though, but you can find great deals on tickets for Hamilton at the theater. Or if you want to go to a Warriors Wednesday playoff game, if you want to go to a Dodger game, if you want to go to the Kentucky Derby, you've got options. You've got a lot of options out there. The only option for buying tickets, though, our friends at SeatGeek, because it is the easiest way to buy. It is the safest way to buy, fully guaranteed. You're going to download that app. You're going to tap all over that app. And you know what you're going to find? You're going to find great deals because they pull in all of these tickets, all of these seats from different sites. They compare the prices. They're grading it out so you know if this is a good deal, if this is a bad deal, if this is a medium deal. And let's say you've got Hamilton tickets and you're like, you know what, $600, that's too much for me. I don't want to spend $600. And you say, you drop that thing down to $550, I'm in. Guess what? They'll send you an alert. They'll send you an alert for that $550 price drop. And all of a sudden, you're watching Hamilton, you're listening to rap, you're learning about history, you're having a great time, you're getting to experience the #1 show in the country. It's just a fantastic idea. And you do that with our friends at SeatGeek. And that's not all. Just say you get that $550 price drop and you're like, all right, I'm saving some money. Here's what you do. You've downloaded that app, you've signed up for a new account, and you put in the promo code TalkHoops. TalkHoops, that's all one word, just like the Twitter handle of yours truly. You get another $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek by downloading the app, signing up for a new account, entering the promo code TalkHoops. Now you've gone from a $600 Hamilton ticket to $530. Wow. You can't afford not to do it, guys. So go download SeatGeek, put in our promo code TalkHoops, and enjoy the theater, a comedy show, a concert, or any sporting event you'd like.
Bon Jovi, May 5th in Uncasville, Connecticut. $54.
That's not a real place. Uncasville.
Mohegan Sun.
I'm out of time.
That's how you know. When you're not around. That's how you know you're not from Connecticut if you're saying Uncasville.
So we're seeing even David Stern coming out and being pro marijuana for players. Don Nelson now is pro marijuana. Steven Jackson said that he played high and Don Nelson was cool with it. Did you think that in 2018 we would see an NBA come around to this point where it's so pro marijuana compared to where it was, say, 10, 15 years ago?
I mean, once it became legal in certain states, I mean, I think it seemed logical to conclude that the discussion was going to end up in the NBA's lap and they're going to have to do something about it. But, you know, I don't know how to react to it. To out myself further as the biggest sports nerd in the world. I've never tried it personally. I don't know what it can or can't do. But if all these people smarter than me are saying it has benefits, I'm not going to dispute them. I mean, and Adam Silver, if his commissionership is shown anything, is that, he's going to listen. He's open to anything. So, maybe we're gradually moving towards some sort of uniform level of acceptance. But, you're the official health and science correspondent of the NBA, not me. So I should be asking you these questions.
Mostly it's just the hangover. Jade and Zach have been talking about it. Zach is now a paid endorser of Pedialyte. Basically at this point. But when I did the Tinderization story, a lot of players used to just come in hungover and drink Pedialyte or Gatorade, whatever it is now. But I don't know. I don't know if I could say it any more succinctly than Don Nelson does in this story when he says, I just don't want to be hungover. Bomani Jones is the same way. I think Bomani has said it on his show. It's just like, I just hate being hungover and the other stuff, there's no hangover with that. Nellie Kush, Marc Stein. Do you know what Kush is?
Vaguely. I read it in the story. I got the gist, and the fact that I'm sure Nellie probably has T-shirts. He probably has a stand in Maui. Nellie is a schemer. I mean, if he senses any kind of business opportunity, he's on it. Well, real estate. He loves to flip homes, and he has shaved ice stands. So God knows what he's up to now.
If Nellie sold T-shirts that just said Nellie Cush on them just to the Bay Area, could he retire all over again? Is there a single person in the Bay Area that wouldn't buy those?
You know what, though? I have to say, I mean, having spent the last 3 years almost embedded with the Warriors, there isn't a lot of Nellie talk. Like, I mean, I hope he's remembered fondly by Warriors fans, and maybe just they've been so insanely successful the last few years that there's no reason for them to think of We Believe or Run TMC. But I don't know. I don't know how popular he still is there. Maybe like I said, hopefully I'm underselling it.
Well, this is why I have a beard, but Zach, I don't know if it's the same for you, but when the interviewer says, "Nice beard, is it new, Don?" And he says, "It was my wife's idea. She told me she wanted to get some of that ugly off my face." Which is great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, this beard is to hide whatever needs to be hidden, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of beards, LeBron James.
You want me to give you a little snippet of what it's like to be a Don Nelson beat writer?
Yes.
I'm going to give you a little taste. This is a not safe for work podcast, right? We can be
Correct.
a little edgy.
Oh, you can say whatever the hell you want.
Very edgy. That's why I thought you weren't coming on.
So just
also because he never asked you.
Hoy has been miscasting me for a bloody decade.
Oh, it was instant. Tom brought it up on the text chain this morning, and he's like, "It'll never happen." Just instant.
I thought, hey, we're here now. Go, Mark.
I'm still bitter. Even if I'm here, I'm going to be bitter about the past.
I'm on your side, Stan.
Can't really tell.
I don't remember the full context of it, but Nellie was going through a winding story of how he met his wife Joy, and just all of a sudden he's telling me and maybe another writer to the story, and all of a sudden he just blurts out, "And we were fornicating."
Yeah, it's a wild child.
That's
he brings up his.
Yeah, did you talk about his daughter?
Oh yeah, you know that story actually all happened when he was still in Dallas. So yeah, I mean I'm telling you, he is the most open book of any coach I have ever encountered in my life.
So the story is,
again, talk about to show you how lucky I was covering this team.
Mm-hmm.
In the tough days, before things kind of took off with Dirk and Nash, Nellie was really into cigars. Like, he had to have one before a game, and he was going to have one after a game. At Reunion Arena, he used to go underneath the stands into this like hidden space that just so he could smoke a cigar and nobody would know. And he invited me there once just so I could interview him because he was just desperate for a cigar. And then it became like I was the only writer who knew Nellie's pregame hideout. Wow. And just without fail, I could go in there and get him alone and get him away from everybody else because he had to have that cigar before the game.
I'm envisioning just like a shoebox. Like, how big is this layer that he had?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like a little secret door underneath the stands where they stored stuff, and Nellie's in there, smoking away so nobody could see him.
Yeah, he's known as a bit of a drinker, at least he was, and now he claims that he doesn't drink anymore. But covering him, were you ever worried about his health? Because he never looked all that healthy. It looked like coaching really took a toll on him. Were you ever worried about that kind of stuff with him?
No question. I mean, he had to take, there was at one stage when he was diagnosed, I believe it was prostate cancer. He had to take a lengthy stay away from the team. Donnie ended up coaching at least 20 games in his absence. And, when he quit, it was very abrupt. It was in that 05-06 season. And, basically they were giving Avery Johnson lots of latitude to run practices. Nellie was really kind of grooming him to take over at that point. And it just got to the point where Nellie was like, I'm done. It was March. Mavs had a good team and he was done. That was it. Over. So he actually looks looks a lot better now. And
really,
every time, I think the rare occasions that I have seen him, he looks good.
Yeah, that photo is just classic.
You don't like him with you don't like him with a beard. I like him.
Oh, I think it's great. It's a great look for him.
It's a great look. Yes.
Was this story? Is this something that's part of something that will come out later, or was that it?
I have no idea.
You have no idea, because I was like, it ended abruptly for me. I don't know. Did it for anybody else?
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
I could have gone for another
5,000 words, 10,000 words.
Again.
Right, yeah.
I wanted the Netflix series.
Get him on the pod. Get him on the pod.
All right. Okay.
Well, that's gonna take years of Jade saying, "Oh, there's no way he'll come on the pod."
No, Jade actually said, "I'll only let Stein."
What? What can I pretend to do?
Jade can pretend like I'm this difficult diva who didn't want to come on, which is probably true to some degree.
It is totally
but the
true.
Truth,
I don't know.
It's true. Trust me.
The real truth is that he never thought I was funny enough to be with you guys.
Please. You
know what? I'm going with Stein and against Jade on this one, because I never had a problem getting Stein on the Daily Dime Live. Anytime I asked, Stein said, "I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll do it." So
I think he just thinks I'm too straight laced, and
maybe.
And you guys are really seeing something cool here while we're doing this podcast. I'm paying a toll as I pass into.
Oh wow, this is a first. This is a first. We've never had that.
You guys are living the dream with me.
Trust the process.
Okay.
Where are you going, Mark? Do we even know this?
I'm going to give you guys even a further glimpse into the sadness that is me. Almost every time I go to Cleveland to go see the Cavs, I'm 3 hours drive from Buffalo, which is where the area that I grew up in till I was 9, and the original kind of platform for all my sports obsessions. So I lived about 80 miles. I lived 80 miles outside Buffalo till I was 9, left at 9, and never got to really experience it as an adult. And a few years ago, I was talking to someone who lives in Cleveland, and they're like, "You do realize that Buffalo is only a 3-hour drive from here?" I'm like, I had no idea. And from that moment on, almost without fail, every time I get to see the Cavs, hop in the car, and I hate long distance driving, but this is the one long distance drive I do. Hop in the car, 3 hours to my spiritual home of Buffalo, spend the night there.
Said nobody.
Then 3 hours. Then 3 hours back to Cleveland to fly home.
This sounds like something Bontemps would try to steal.
Yeah.
Like he's
Dude, Bontemps wishes he was doing this.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. I love that place.
Hey, Steiny Mo he's a great guy. Let me tell you, he's a great guy.
Wow, that's pretty good.
That is really good. Good Lord.
Real good one.
So Dr. Jack, so you were
that sounds exactly like him. That was pretty impressive.
No, I love Mark. I love Mark. He's a great beat writer for the New York Times. I worship that guy.
Wow, you are wasting your talent covering the NBA, man.
Yeah, Tom, I love you, but why haven't we just had fake Tim Bontemps on every Thursday?
I can't stand Ethan Strauss. Can't stand that guy. If he says one more thing about JaVale McGee, I am out. I am out on that.
Yeah, I'm out on him too, man. I lived with the Warriors 3 years. Did Strauss and Hoy ever say, "Hey, you should be on Warriors Wednesday"? No,
not once.
Not once.
Not once. Oh my God!
But hey, I'll get over it eventually. I'll get over it eventually.
No, hold that grudge, Mark.
I'm so disappointed in myself.
You can just put in 50 dings over me, and no one will know.
Oh.
Wow. Gonna let it hang.
Oh man,
let it hang.
What was the high point for you covering Nellie? Like, what is just the ultimate, like, where you're just kind of giggling to yourself, like, this is my job?
I was pretty damn happy the day he gave me the Nowitzki Rookie of the Year story. I was pretty happy that day. But I think probably the story that I would tell the most is when a few days before the draft in '98, I'll put all my cards on the table. I had no idea that they were going after Nash as well. That part I didn't know. But a few days before the draft, I had figured out that that Nowitzki was the guy. I wrote some kind of story in the morning news to that effect that they wanted him badly. And this was still, again, 1998. So, yes, it was on the internet in some form or fashion, but it still didn't travel to 30 NBA cities the way it would now in 2 seconds. It wasn't, there were no links to tweet out. So there was no, I don't even think Hoops Hype was in existence just yet. So, Nellie was not thrilled with the fact that I had written this thing about how much the Mavs liked Nowitzki. So the next time I see him, he's like, dude, we are not drafting Nowitzki. Dan Gazarich kicked his ass when we had them in here together. I'm like, okay, we'll see on draft night. And then, of course, draft night comes. They get Nowitzki. They trade for Nash. Nellie comes skipping out, just proud, the proudest of himself he's ever been. And my first question after the group dispersed was, I thought you told me Gazarich kicked Dirk's ass.
Yes.
Like, don't ever believe a word I tell you around the draft. And that was a very important lesson. And from that point on, I never did. I never believed a word he said at the draft. And it was always a lie.
You're driving to Cleveland right now. I had a tough time. I picked the Wizards over Toronto, so people are calling me a hater. I didn't get that right. Turns out, didn't get that right. But I also picked LeBron to win in 7 games, and it seems like in 2018, picking LeBron to win over the Toronto Raptors is heresy, considering how good the Raptors have been this season. Are the Cavs really this bad that we saw in the last series? Actually, wait, this pod's going to go up on tomorrow, so we probably don't even want to talk Cavs, do we?
Correct. Well, you can talk about them generally.
Yeah, they're going to suck today. They suck tomorrow. It's just LeBron's good.
What happened to
I am.
Go ahead.
I am starting to think they are this bad. And I was in the camp that when they kind of toyed with the Raptors the last 2 times they met in the regular season, I was in the camp that said, okay, they're fully back in Toronto's head. That's one team they don't need to worry about. But man, you got to be a you got to be able to convert catch and shoots playing with LeBron. And right now, no one on that team has the confidence to make catch and shoot buckets. I don't know where it's all gone, but look, I would rather get a prediction wrong than pick against LeBron. I'm not going to pick the Raptors to beat him. I'm not going to pick the Sixers to beat him or the Celtics to beat him if he gets that far, at least not in the Eastern Conference. When someone in the East beats him 4 times, then I'll believe it. But no, man, they are a certified mess. And you have to wonder, how long can you realistically keep this up unless he starts following Tom Haberstraw's very specific instructions on what waters he should be drinking during
Need that alkaline up.
Yeah. Stein, what water, what's your go-to water? When you're really just dehydrated from a column or a newsletter, what are you going for water?
And I think this is going to be a really bad answer that backfires on me. I've kind of been a smart water guy. That's a really bad choice.
Oh, man.
Wait, is smart water out?
Smart water is
as fake water. It's reprocessed water.
It feels like real water.
As the luminary Garrett Temple once told me, it is not smart to drink smart water, guys.
Oh, that's what I get every time.
That's easy.
I know.
It's the bottle. I like the bottle.
It's a great bottle.
I know that's it. I love the bottle. I'm with you.
What about
I'm not educated like Tom. I don't have all this health and science
I've heard
knowledge.
this.
I'm an old dude.
You know what else I like is Fiji. How's Fiji?
Love the Fiji bottle as well.
Fiji is actually super, super good. It is natural, unlike Smart Water. Smart Water is glorified tap water that they throw some electrolytes in it.
Yes.
That's what it is. So there's two things. There's things called natural spring water, which is organic, quote unquote, and then there's the purified water, which is what Smart Water is. Aquafina, Dasani, Essentia is also purified water that they throw in some alkaline in. But it's not natural, It's not natural, guys.
What about Poland Springs, Tom?
I think that's natural. I think that's a natural mineral water. That's cool.
How did you even get the idea to write about water?
It's everywhere, Mark.
Well, that's true. He's got you there, Mark. Water is everywhere.
It is everywhere.
Water is everywhere, but in my 25 years covering this league, I've never heard players pontificating about it, so I missed the boat there.
Well, I think really what it is I started noticing that there's more water drinkers than Gatorade drinkers in locker rooms, and I just kind of wanted to know about that shift where LeBron James after games is drinking Fiji water, but he has to cover up the bottle, and then Carmelo Anthony has to cover up the bottle, and all these players – it's not so much that they prefer a certain drink. I just thought it was so interesting that they have to have it in the bottle. They don't trust someone to pour it in a cup and hand it to them. They like the process of drinking the water out of the bottle. It has to be in a Fiji bottle. And that's like borderline baseball superstition stuff. And it just fascinated me that there was these little idiosyncrasies of NBA players and how they are addicted to a certain, like I had no idea until I talked to Tommy Shepard of the Washington Wizards. I was like, who is the guy who like geeked out on water? Was there something? He's like, oh, well, I have 5 names for you, but number 1 is Antoine Jameson. The guy was crazy about water. He wrote it on his damn shoes, Fiji. And I was like, did he have a Fiji deal? He's like, no, he just was so obsessed over Fiji. He could smell it. He could taste it. Blind taste test. He could taste the Fiji and pick it out. And also the smell of the bottle. He could smell the bottle and he would know which one was Fiji. I brought this up to JJ Redick. He said the same exact thing. He's like, oh yeah, Fiji has a distinct smell. Like what?
Well, did he do this? About? Did he do this because of the North Carolina Duke thing? The North Carolina guy couldn't know what Fiji was over the Duke guy. That's what I think's at work here.
Oh,
I think it's a Tobacco Road rivalry thing.
It might be. But there's a weird.
Tom, this is why you're better at this than I am, because anytime I'm in a locker room, I was just looking at Nikola Pekovic's tattoos. I wasn't noticing anything else.
Yeah. Well, it was.
Well, I'm not maniacal, but it's only for Pepsi and Coke in glass bottles, as I heard Windhurst once outed me on this podcast about all that.
But you didn't have a chance to come on and defend yourself, right, Mark?
Wasn't even invited.
Oh, couldn't be.
I was going to get Tom to do a fake Marc Stein next time.
I got to work on my Marc Stein. Wait, so for the listeners, because this is a beverage podcast, masquerading as a basketball.
You don't want to learn me because it's the most accurate mean tweet I ever got. Face for radio. Stein, you got a face for radio and a voice for print. Don't waste your time on the Marc Stein imitation.
Oh man, I can't believe McMahon sent that to you.
Jesus,
he ain't that clever.
All right, so you're a Coke guy or a Pepsi guy or a glass guy?
I'm a glass guy. Glass. And this is why I am such a picture of poor health. Coke, Pepsi, or RC in a glass bottle, I will literally crawl through glass to get any of them, and that's not good, kids. Do not do that. Do not be like me. Read Tom's article. Drink water. Never drink soda. It's the worst thing for you, but I can't help it. I can't.
Okay, so when did this begin? There's got to be an origin story of why Marc Stein is addicted to glass bottle drinking.
Going to Israel in my youth, and that's the way it's still in Europe served. If almost anywhere you go in Europe, if you go to a sit-down restaurant, it's served in a glass bottle, and it is, when ice cold, the absolute nectar of the gods.
Wait a second, but what about have you tried the fountain Coke from a McDonald's? Because I would argue that that's its purest form. I do love the glass bottle Coke.
I'm such a snob at this point in my old age that unless I can get glass, I almost can't drink it anymore. The can is my break glass in case of emergency situation. But the reason Windhurst told that story was because it was the 2013 finals or the 2014 finals, and we landed in San Antonio and we're in the car together. He told most of the story wrong, by the way. But we landed in San Antonio at like 11. We landed at like 11 o'clock, and I said, okay, before we go to the hotel, I got to make a stop. This Target or this Walmart right here, I know they got glass bottle Coke, so I got to stop. And he was just mesmerized by that. He never seen anything like it. But
I will say this: I gave up Coke. I gave up soda like 2.5 years ago. But anytime I do see a Coke in a glass bottle in like a taqueria or something, I am tempted. I am very tempted.
Mm-hmm. That's how we drank it as kids.
The bottles from Mexico, though, see, I don't like those. They taste different, and I don't like those.
Oh,
as opposed to the American bottles?
The Mexican Coke's supposed to be better.
That's the rumor. That's the urban. That's the urban legend.
I was waiting for that.
I would dispute it. I missed whatever comment Hoy threw in there, so I'll have to hear it on the playback, I guess.
No, he's not posting this.
And you're not. And even if he does, you're not listening back to this time. There's no way.
You thought this was a pod?
This is a tryout for you, Mark.
Yeah. It's an audition.
And I still probably have to pay for it.
I feel terrible because October 28th. Hey, Mark, possible to get you on the podcast with Dave and Tom next Thursday? Hope you are well. Mark says, hey there. I have to ask for permission, but what time Thursday do you tape? I said 12 o'clock. Thanks, man. He says, hey, bro, I will get permission for this, but Thursday probably won't work. I'm in New York City all week during orientation, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'll bug you next week.
Did you?
And I never did.
And then you never did, so he agreed.
And now.
You know what? I thought Mark was giving me the second. To be honest, it's only a second.
We're going to go all the way
crazy.
True Hoop Network, yep. And then this is like seriously the fifth incarnation of what you've done.
Oh no, it goes like this, Mark. It goes True Hoop TV, and then we got in trouble at ESPN, and then we turned to True Hoop, and then it turned to TBA, the basketball analogy, and then the basketball friends, and now. Back to back. This is the fifth.
Mark, I'm gonna read a transcript for you. I said,
go for it.
I said, I'm in for a Don Nelson pod. We should get Stein on to talk about him. Tom said yes. He said, Jade, you want to reach out? Jade said, Stein won't come on. Tom said, you asked? And Jade said, for today. And I said, just in general. He said, I've asked before. I clarified because I just wanted to make sure maybe this was a company thing. I said, since he joined the New York Times, he won't decline. He'll just give me a link when the time comes. I'll ask, send a message. And then, wait, no, it's going to get better. He said, he said later after you had apparently agreed to it, or you said you had to ask for permission, he said, well, typical, Mark is probably just teasing.
God, you're ripping, Mark.
Wow.
Hold on, wait. Wow. There's one more thing I wrote. What's the last thing I wrote?
The last lesson, never assume Mark doesn't want to be on.
Yes.
That's it. And then all is well.
I learned my lesson today. I think it's just the communication breakdown.
Right, the communication
breakdown. No, not between Mark and you, between you. It's you. You said, I'll check with you next week. And did you? No.
The True Hoop podcast, the basketball friends, the whatever the other one was called. I'm sure there's archives of all of them. Do a search on Stein and you'll come up with nothing. Except, I think in my last year at ESPN, I would do interviews with selected NBA players, and Jade would reluctantly post them as True Hoop conversations. But I was never allowed to go on. I was never allowed to go on with the cool kids. No Warriors Wednesday. I mean, he was pulling out, there was the one year at the finals, there was 97 people at the table. Charles Barkley walks in. Jade's taking pictures like he's some street groupie.
Oh my God.
And like everyone at that table had been on the pod except me at that point.
Oh my God. I told that story before. I told that story about Barkley and how you scolded me afterward.
I was legit mad at you that day. I was legit mad.
Wait, why did you scold him? What happened?
I asked for a picture.
Because the Chuckster, there's like 25 ESPN people in the back. We're having this great
I'm not a
group
reporter.
Dinner. We're all just hanging out. Jackie's regaling the table with all these great stories. And then the Chuckster's in the same restaurant. He sees Jackie, comes over, and then just spends the next 15 minutes with us. And Jade is taking pictures and Instagramming and tweeting. I'm like, come on, man, act like you've been here.
Yeah.
Jade. But I hadn't. By the way, I might never go back to there ever again. So I'm happy I took that picture.
So most of my whining today has been for show, but I was legit mad at Jade that day. I was like, you can't do that, man. The Chuckster's he's just paying us a visit. We got to just act like this is just a normal Tuesday in Cleveland.
And
I will say this: I don't think Chuck remembered that encounter anyway. So he was I'm a by the book, overly paranoid, old school journalist. Oh, yes. I can't help it. Man. I can't change. And now we've come full circle. We've come
Look
full
at us
circle,
now.
people.
You know what's amazing is that Mark had 5 interviews on a podcast with Charles Barkley, and Jade turned him down.
What?
I just like the idea that Stein probably had 5 taped interviews with Charles Barkley, and you're like, yeah, you know what, I'm good. And then Charles Barkley runs in the room, and you become Charles fanboy taking pictures with him. And I'm just picturing Stein stewing in the corner, just being like, I told you, I have 8 interviews with this guy.
I mean, in 15 years at ESPN, I think nothing made me more jealous than the slickly produced Amin Al-Hassan intro for Strauss with the whole from the Circuit City Studios.
Yeah.
That whole thing.
Oh, really?
I love that thing.
City
I love
Studios.
that thing. And I was like, Jade would never make something like that for me, but look what Easton gets. Unbelievable.
Mark, you should come on you should be the guest on Radio Ethan when we do it again.
How
That'd
is young
hilarious.
Ethan? I haven't seen, I've talked to him a little bit, but how is the young man?
He's doing great.
He's a dad.
He's doing great. Dad. Yeah, he's a dad, obviously, right?
Yeah, no, I know he's a dad.
Yeah.
Still young Ethan to me.
I think that I'm gonna suggest you as I'm trying to get Marcus Thompson, Marc Stein, the next guest on that show.
What are the chances that Jade actually tries to get you on the show?
It would be funny if Ethan declined.
I love Mark's silence.
Maybe if a Warrior gives an explosive interview in the New York Times about marijuana, maybe Jade will call me back.
It's gonna be JaVale. Funny. I hate that guy.
So funny.
JaVale is terrible. All right.
Who else can you do? Who else can you do besides Bontemps?
You know what? It's too late in the day. I don't have enough energy to do Bomani or Pablo or anything like that.
Oh, Pablo's good.
But
yeah, I can't.
That's right. You really should do a pod where it's just you doing all these other voices.
Radio Ethan versus fake Bontemps. That's what we need.
I didn't know you could do you can't do Pablo and Bomani.
I can do Bomani. I don't know if I could do Pablo.
Really? Wow.
I think Stu Gatz and Dan are pretty good too, but I got to work on my Marc Stein. This isn't it for Dirk, right? This isn't it for Dirk, right?
No. He's home. He's drinking a lot of water, nursing that ankle. He's coming back for one more.
Hey, Stein, what would, if I had told you, I just like phrasing it this way, but if I had told you back when Dirk was a rookie that someday he was going to pass Wilt Chamberlain in all-time points, what would you have said?
I mean, I never would have said that, but I think if you ask him, did any media believe in you when you were going through that nightmare rookie season, I think he would tell you that It wasn't a crowded bandwagon, but I was definitely on it. I was, as you guys know, because you know me pretty well, I make my annual trip to England every September just to watch soccer. So the Mavs draft Nowitzki, they get Nash, it's draft night, now the lockout starts. But September of 98, it's my usual go to England and watch Manchester City. So I convinced the Morning News, I said, listen, I'm going to be in Manchester. Manchester to Frankfurt is just like Dallas to New York. Just pay for the 3 days that I'm going to go to Germany, take a break from my vacation. I will get Nowitzki. It will be a great story, I promise you. So I got to go to Germany when Dirk, during the lockout, was still playing for his club team. And so I really got to watch him for a whole weekend in 2 games. Like, I really got to see him up close. And this was before he was really widely seen in the States. And just what I saw then, you know, as a young Buffalo Braves fan, Bob McAdoo was the early standard bearer for, you know, face-up big men. And I was like, Dirk's got more range. He's got a sweeter shot. What this guy has, you absolutely cannot teach. He's going to learn all the other stuff, but there's never been, I mean, right away you could see there had never been a 7-footer like him. But no, look, to say he was going to score 30,000 points, I mean, that would be ridiculous to even pretend that. But it does speak to one of his greatest characteristics, and that's durability. I mean, he's been very, very durable, and he's played through a zillion injuries. I mean, the joke around Dallas is that he's better when he sprains his ankle. I mean, that obviously served him well, and you got to be on the court to score that many points. What
about your favorite Dirk is in Texas moment? Like he's an 18-year-old from Germany coming to Texas to play basketball. There's got to be some cultural.
Well, okay, yeah, I mean, in those, okay, now I get what you're saying. In those days, I mean, you know how an NBA locker room is. If you're not dressed right, you are going to get savaged.
Yes.
And early Dirk was nothing but flannel shirts and topsiders. It was not pretty. And he would just get destroyed for his clothes. And in those days, I mean, he could speak English, but he was so shy. And he would just say, sure, all the time, sure. And, I mean, there are stories of, you know, he didn't know how to fill out a credit card receipt, so he would pay for dinner and, you know, somebody would write in a $50 tip and he'd end up with some crazy charge, you know, and he had to learn so much that you just don't even think about. I mean, he was not ready to come over here. He was praying for the lockout to swallow that whole first season so he didn't have to come here. He was not ready for the lockout to end when it did have to come over here for those 50 games that started in February.
Speaking of fashion, how legendary was Steve Nash's bleached hair?
Yeah, luckily, I mean, you know, that shows you he wasn't expecting that trade either. He did, as I remember, he did the bleached hair on some sort of soccer dare. That was a World Cup year, if my memory's right, and certainly wasn't expecting to be traded and have to go to a press conference. So that was unfortunate. That was not a good look. But I think both have had their share of good and not good looks over the years.
I mean, Dirk, Zach, back me up. Dirk kind of looks like Nick Carter a little bit.
Oh, I could see it, especially, young Dirk.
Definitely.
Yeah, with that middle part.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture right now where he's a shoo-in for Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
They are absolute ringers.
Well, and Nash's, bleached hair, maybe a little NSYNC-esque, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they merged the two worlds.
Yeah, a little JT, little Lance Bass, maybe, I would say. Do you know any of these people I'm talking about, Mark?
I have heard of Lance Bass. I did. If Nick Carter is a Backstreet Boy, you filled in the blank for me because I was this close to saying who is Nick Carter.
All right, Justin Timberlake, NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
I'm going to say both.
You're going to say both?
Is that wrong?
You just said you don't hedge.
He's not from NSYNC. He was with the Backstreet Boys. What am I talking about? Wait, what is this turning? What is this? No. What is this, a Levitard show? Now we're going to.
It just feels like Digits on now.
No, Justin was insane. It was Dustin. It was Dustin Timberlake that was the Backstreet Boy, Mark.
Dustin.
Yeah.
Dustin.
I suck at pop culture. Newsflash.
All right. Here's another one. BR, my employer at this moment, along with Count the Dings, is doing a feature with Steve Nash doing soccer stuff with NBA players. Who is the best soccer player in the NBA right now in the NBA?
The best soccer player active? I don't know. That's a great question. I really don't know.
Come on, Mark. This is such an easy way for you to have the New York Times send you to Europe to do a story.
Hey, Luol is very good. Like, he played in Nash's game one year, and I didn't think he had played much soccer in his past. He was good in that game. Honestly, Embiid can clearly play. And as you can imagine, the Sixers are not going to let him go anywhere near a soccer field in his free time. But it was either last year or the year before that Nash actually got Embiid to come out to his game. And Embiid was dying to play. I mean, in the pregame warmups, they couldn't get a ball away from him. He was so thirsty to get out there and play. So I would actually love to see what kind of soccer player he is, and I imagine he's a pretty good one.
Yeah, the Toronto Raptors are pretty good at soccer. I feel like I saw a video of them like kicking around a ball last year, right?
I'm sure Dragic can play. He loves the game. But I don't. Look, Nash could have probably played pro soccer if he put his mind to it, and his brother did. So, for anybody to come close to him would be pretty impressive.
Zach,
I'm sure you've seen that. You've seen that Bleacher Report commercial, right, with Nash?
Yes.
Rifling in a goal. Nash is the guy you hated in high school, man. He just was good at it. He was the shortstop. He was the point guard.
Canadian.
The quarterback.
Still hate him.
He had everybody.
Jade probably pretend like he reached out to Steve Nash and he never got back to Jade, but in fact, it was the opposite.
No, I said it on the show the other day, yesterday. He's so fit. He's got, perfect life. He's winning awards still. It's like, come on, man.
Well, I guarantee you, in the unlikely event he hears this podcast, he will be calling me to give me a stern lecture about why am I still drinking Pepsi and Coke.
Well, Steve, if you're listening to this, come on the pod and we'll hash it out. Yeah, yes. I don't know if I can convince Jade to get Mark back on, but we can get you on.
I'll give you your own day.
Zach, how'd you quit, man? How did you quit, man? How did you do it?
I just stopped. The only way I can stop stuff, like I used to think like, I'll just do it in moderation, and I'm a cold turkey person. Like it was right before, it was like 4 days before New Year's Day, and I was like, I should come up with a resolution. And then I kept thinking like, well, if I just wait 4 days to do this resolution, I'm never going to get it done. So it was like December 28th or something. I was like, okay, I'm done drinking soda. And I've only had one moment of weakness where 3 weeks later, I was at a grocery store and I bought a Coke. I bought like a fountain Coke, and I hadn't had a sip yet. And I walked out to the parking lot and I thought, what am I doing? This isn't going to do anything. So I threw a full fountain Coke away into the garbage, and I've never purchased one since.
Was it a caffeine thing for you?
I don't know if it was a caffeine. No, because I drink coffee, so it wasn't a caffeine thing. It was just and I just decided, like, I was like, I don't know if this is actually going to make me feel healthier, but I like water. I can stick with water. Apparently, I'm drinking the wrong water because I do smart water. But
well, you're drinking it based on the bottle.
Better than soda still. No,
oddly, it's a cold turkey thing for me, Mark. It was just I decided I was going to have willpower about one thing in my life.
Good job.
And it was you love cold turkey. Here's a take on soda. I haven't drank soda in a long time. The only soda I drink is ginger ale and bourbon because my father-in-law loves it. And actually, shout out to on Saturday is the Kentucky Derby. Mark, you're invited. Jade is not. Mark, you can come over to my house. We're having a Derby party on Saturday afternoon. And Zach, you can come too, but I don't want to get sick and you're sick. Right, yeah. So
I'll also be in Salt Lake City, so it's unlikely to happen.
It's not that far.
You live in Charlotte, though, don't you?
I do. So I'm going to invite MJ as well. But because I besmirched Gatorade in my story, I'm not so sure he'll RSVP. So I actually can't drink Sprite out of a can. I think it's disgusting. But if you put it over ice in a cup, I think it's delicious. Does anyone agree with me on this one?
I'm with you on if instead of Sprite, if you said 7-Up, like 7-Up over ice in a glass, like I'm into that.
Sprite on ice, Tom?
Yeah, I'm saying Sprite in a can is just gross, but if you put
Sprite in a can, no.
Yeah, no, like naked Sprite.
I've got major issues with the state of American ice, the state of American cups. Almost all restaurant drinks are abysmal.
Wow!
Don't get me started.
Wow!
No, I'd love to get you started.
No, I think I want this. I want this.
Yeah.
The state of ice and cups.
The state of ice and cups in America.
Please.
Dreadful.
And they say, don't get me started.
Scandalous. Fix it, Trump.
This is build a wall around the ice and the cups.
Glass bottles required in all restaurants. Mandated.
Wow.
What's wrong with ice?
And then you get those glass factories going.
Yeah,
we can boost some jobs.
Do you have something wrong?
Some ice is good. Some ice is good, and some ice is not good. I mean, I'm not the water expert here. I never signed up for this podcast to have to explain the properties of water and ice and all that stuff.
Look, I'm Steve Nash.
I don't know what it is.
I'm unselfish. Here's the ball, Mark. Go run with it. You're Amare. Just finish it. I want to hear your rant about ice. It's not really water. It's a different shape of water.
You want to know what really gets me? There are certain restaurants in this country that will carry the glass bottle Cokes, but then they don't refrigerate them. So they come out warm and they give you a glass anyway. Bro,
true.
It's glass bottle. Put it in a refrigerator. There's nothing better. Do I have to hold your hand here? Do you know anything about restaurants?
You don't serve it warm. It's terrible.
Stein, what about, so if you have to go ice, are you going cubed ice or crushed ice?
I guess reluctantly cubed.
See, I think crushed ice is the way to go.
It's not consistent. Ice, it's not consistent restaurant to restaurant.
It should be. You want a uniform ice code?
Yes.
I haven't heard.
If I have to have a fountain drink, I want it to have the exact taste and carbonation in any restaurant I go to. And it doesn't.
All right. What makes you angrier? What makes you angrier? The state of ice and cups in restaurants in America or Manchester United?
Oh, come on. I can't even bring myself to say the other thing.
Wait, what's worse, when you're Manchester United or when you're at a McDonald's or whatever restaurant you want, and it has a self-serve ice machine, and you push the lever and one ice cube drops, and then it just keeps circling and making that gurgling sound, and no other ice pops out, and you're just left with one ice cube? Or Manchester United.
We recently went to a family dinner. Wife, the kids, everybody's hungry. And they bring out multiple, tried Coke, tried Sprite. It's so flat, it looks like water. There's not a bubble in it. The ice looks, I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's like, come on.
Please describe the ice. I want to hear you describe the ice.
I had to leave. I don't think I have the words to describe how the word I'm looking for. How meager, how just
meager ice.
I like the ice with the little dimple in it, which will melt to a certain point where you can put the straw through the ice. You know that? That particular cube.
And then you can play it. You can stick your straw in it and then twirl it around on it.
Yes, exactly. Love that ice.
Yeah.
But I also like the old ice in the tray, which I have at home, which is a nice. It's good for multiple drinks.
I got those craft cocktail ice trays. So you can those are giant cube or the orb of ice.
I do the what's that drink there that's very popular now in the tin cups that you drink? Moscow Mule.
Oh, that's copper.
Moscow Mule. Copper. Sorry. Yes.
So on Saturday, for those who are listening, the mint julep. It's a Kentucky specialty. It is bourbon, simple syrup, ice, and mint. And sometimes you can throw some powdered sugar on there, but it is tons of ice. This is a nightmare for Marc Stein. But you take a hammer, you put ice in a plastic bag, and you take like a mallet, like a crab mallet, and you just crush the ice by hand, and then you put it in a metal glass, I guess, a metal cup. And they're special mint julep cups so that the ice stays colder longer. And you don't put any soda in it. You don't do any mixer. It's just simple syrup, which is pretty simple. It's just water boiled with sugar and then bourbon and then some mint. And you have the little mint aromas at the top that dance on your nostrils. It's delicious when you put back the cup and you drink it. Mint juleps are tasty. Enjoy one during the the Kentucky Derby. Enjoy the Derby with a bourbon. I like Maker's Mark as like your standard mint julep liquor, but you can also go up. Buffalo Trace is actually a really nice brand that's a little cheaper than Maker's Mark if you don't want to go spend the cash for Maker's. I can go on for days about bourbon, and since it's Saturday and it's the Kentucky Derby,
I'm going to give you guys one last piece of ice advice before just to make sure we drive away any remaining remnants of whatever audience was actually listening to this when we were basketball.
Again, it's an audition. It's not actually.
You can trust the ice in most Marriott ice machines. So I do like my hotel ice, I will say.
Now, Mark, I know you're a man of integrity. You have journalistic ethics. I'm not challenging this necessarily. I just want to know, is this I'm getting more Marriott points out of saying this, or is this a legitimate claim?
It's a legitimate claim. I'm going to go out on a real sturdy limb here and say nobody in the Marriott chain is listening to the show. I don't think it's going to net me even 1 point.
Oh, do not tempt it.
Please, if you work at a Marriott, tweet us about this.
Make it happen.
Get at me at Jade_Hoy. I'm sure there is somebody listening, Mark. Trust me. I'm going to get you a couple points.
Yeah, that's not happening. Jade's never going to hold up in his end of the bargain. We know the history here.
Trust me, I'll fake it if I need to.
I'm covered. Don't worry.
All right.
I haven't laughed that much on a podcast. I can't remember.
Fun.
And it's too bad. Mark, it's just going to be an audition.
Boy, you did hit record, didn't you?
Oh, shit. What are you doing next week, Mark? We have to redo this.
Mark, what are you doing tomorrow?
I got to ask permission.
That was a hell of a test. I thought the test went well.
Yeah.
The audition.
Anyway.
That was great.
Anyway. Yeah.
Go subscribe to the New York Times and the newsletter. Follow Marc Stein on Twitter. Tom Haberstroh, Jade Hoy. I'm Zach Harper. Enjoyed the Nerd Brigade on Thursday. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Love y'all.
All right, Mark. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. It was lovely.
All right, guys. All right, man.
Drive safe.
Hope everybody's good. I'll catch up with you guys soon. Be good.
Yep.
All right, brother.